Hi there, welcome to the Fierce Factor podcast. I'm your host, Kaylee Lindholm. And I think it's time for us women to shift the conversation in business and step into our feminine leadership to do the most iconic work the aesthetic industry has ever seen. Each week, I'll be bringing a powerful dose of strategy, sarcasm, solutions, and sass that will rev up your creativity and ignite your brilliance as you link arms with me along our shared path of personal and professional growth in 20 minutes or less. Let's go. Hello, leader. Welcome back to the Fierce Factor podcast. You are tuning in to episode number 257. And listen, this is a really special episode. I know I say that a lot, but I really mean it this time because this episode signifies the beginning of a chapter I honestly didn't imagine I'd be writing when I started this podcast as a passion project 5 years ago. Of all of the professional endeavors I've explored, creating and delivering this podcast every week has been hands down the most rewarding. It's truly taken a level of individual commitment that is like unparalleled to anything else. And this platform has been my creative outlet to both share my thoughts and also to find my own voice, because what I do know is that we all have a story to tell, yet it can be challenging and quite frankly, scary to start speaking your truth to the world. And I've learned that ideas, they need to be like tried on in a way, like a great dress we see in a magazine. Of course, it's stunning on the model in perfect lighting and, in staged poses, but it's going to look and feel a certain way on our own body with our haircut, coloring, and our own vibe. Same with a unique ideology. It's something that starts like a trigger. Maybe you can relate. Maybe it's a certain standard of practice or a way of doing things that just doesn't make sense to you. You're not really sure why it's done a certain way, or maybe it's just become the status quo, so it is what it is. And one of those things for me was first our industry conferences. And I just couldn't understand why the same speakers were speaking on the same stages every year, why the pharmaceutical companies were driving the narrative, and why it felt like over time, every conference just watered down the quality of education and experience for the paying attendees. And it just felt like the agenda was being politicked through sponsorship. And part of me always understood that a conference it's a business, right? So there has to be a monetization strategy. And listen, I'm all about making money, but there has to be a way to do it differently. I was having sidebar conversations with colleagues and clients who expressed the same concerns, but ultimately no one was doing anything about it. There was a lot of complaining, but not a lot of action. It was the first time a conference organizer came to me after I had spoken for free at their conference the year prior. They asked me to submit abstracts to speak the following year. And so I submitted the abstracts, and then I received an email response to my abstracts about a month later telling me my talks had been accepted and that they would love for me to present at the conference. And if I wanted to give my talk, the fee would be $5,000. So let me just connect the dots here for you. I was asked to pay to educate, inspire, and bring massive value to their attendees who were also paying thousands of dollars for their tickets. So essentially, instead of me sharing content like you hear on this podcast, lived experiences, practical strategies, and unbiased education, now talks are given by A, whoever has the biggest Instagram following to drive traffic to the event, or B, whoever paid to drive their agenda, aka make a sales pitch. And listen, something about this formula just wasn't sitting right for me. Now, this was back in 2021. This is now the standard. And the problem is, if I didn't play the game, I'd miss out on the opportunity to grow my exposure and therefore my business, and probably to meet some of you who are listening here, right? I felt like my hands were tied, and that really was upsetting me. But ultimately, I fully understand what it was, why it was the way it was, and I just had to think and get creative about what could we do? There has to be another way. And the beauty of having a problem is the inspired creativity to potentiate a solution. Have you ever been in that situation where you're just like so frustrated and mad and feel like there's no way out that you actually come up with a solution. I mean, that's sort of the point there, right? Ultimately, that's where the beautiful vision of the alt experience incubated. But back to my point about trying things on. If you scroll back to the first episodes of the Fierce Factor podcast, I say this hesitantly because it's very embarrassing. You'll literally hear a very different tone in my voice. I had an entirely different level of confidence in my vision, in my own delivery, and quite honestly, my own belief in my ability to make any kind of real impact through my work. I was hopeful. I was optimistic. I was figuring it out. And boy, have I grown. I have learned so much about myself, about real thought leadership over the past 5 years. No, over about the past 43 years, almost to the day. Because what I've come to realize is that it's the sum of experiences in our entire life that make up the essence of who we are as a human being. And it's from this unique space that we all get to develop our own perspectives. I've had the privilege of failing a lot along the way. And for that, I have grown stronger and more capable of leveraging my own dynamic story to share with you. And much of this story is about lessons I've learned as a woman in the world, being a young girl with a dream of being a college athlete, to a professional climbing the corporate ladder, as a mom, a wife, a daughter of aging parents, to managing director of a multidisciplinary aesthetic and wellness institute, to building my own 7-figure business. And this is a story that I'm still writing. This is a story of overcoming adversity, one of vulnerability. It's a story of evolving from an ambitious, striving, and passionate girl to a self-assured, independent, successful woman with the confidence to take risks, the faith in God that allows the acceptance of what is, and the calling to invite other women to explore the depths of their lifelong desires and achieve their highest potential. And I can only imagine what episode 500 will represent for me as this body of work unfolds. Over the past year, I've had over 100 conversations with women of impact in all different stages of their life. Seasoned professionals, practice leaders, budding entrepreneurs, and established founders with self-led companies. And I see a version of me inside of each and every one of them. Because regardless of title, specialty, industry, or profession, high-growth women like us have something very special in common. We don't always fit in with the crowd. We never feel like we've made it. As soon as we accomplish a goal, what do? We set a new one. We know we're meant for more. We struggle with the feeling of never being enough. We see the potential in others, but we wrestle with our own. We desire to be seen for the gifts we bring to the world. And we fear if we slow down, it will all go away. We dream of simplicity and clarity. We're the most competitive and driven humans we know. We want the best for others and are willing to step up and be the one who provides that pathway. We are leaders. And that's what the Fierce Factor means to me, answering our calling for greatness. And this has been weighing heavy on my heart as I've personally been conceptualizing the runway for stepping into my own calling to broaden my impact, to support inspiring and intentional women at the highest level. And after some deep conversations with God and 250 conversations with you here on this podcast, it has become crystal clear that I need to answer my invitation to create an ecosystem that brings powerhouse women like us together. Women who are game changers, deal makers, and movement creators. Women who won't settle for average because they're impact warriors, trendsetters, risk takers. And the truth is, I've always been her. As I was reflecting on the pivotal experiences that led me to this point, the day I tore my ACL my junior year of high school and spent my senior year rehabbing and cheering from crutches on the sidelines, to the recovery and months of fighting for a starting position in college, landing my first sales job out of college and having to learn how to navigate my way as a blonde Orange County girl, knocking on doors on Skid Row in East LA, to becoming an aesthetic device rep and slaying in a male-dominated cutthroat market, to advancing in my career with no blueprint for growth, learning how to hire and manage people for the first time and being terrible at it, by the way, sitting for the first time in the boardroom, pitching my big idea to a room full of powerful executives, taking the leap of faith to start KLC. It's the decisions I made in those moments and the work I put in to build my habits that shaped my character, my aptitude, my potential to achieve the level of success I am proud to say I've accomplished today. It's the process I plugged into that created the woman who I am. See, social media has made it so difficult to even navigate our own lives. We try to emulate what success looks like, but most of the time, the influencers we see on social media are either completely bluffing about their success or they spent 10, 15, 20 years building it. And the truth is, you can't skip the line. There's no such thing as overnight success, and there is no such thing as a plug and play solution. I watch new business owners who shadow our KLC Academy clients or join their Patreons and mentorship programs. They pay a lot of money to get access to the exact formula that made them successful. And they implement these tactics into their own business and then fail. I see it all the time. What they didn't get was that 8 years of absolute grind, mistakes, and lessons that our clients learned to strengthen their knowledge and resilience. That's what got them to a place where their blueprint now makes sense. And the truth is, the reason I have chosen not to work with brand new business owners inside of our academy is that I personally believe there is a rite of passage that exists for new businesses. It's called get scrappy. I just don't believe in the perfect marketing plan, the perfect business model, the perfect clinical approach. If you want to go fast, stop building your business on someone else's success blueprint and start building it on your own failures. It's the hard knocks that create the multi-million-dollar business leaders that I get to work with inside of my coaching practice. Don't believe me? Come to Alt and watch them stand on an unsponsored stage and talk about it openly. I remember when I first started my business, I was craving direction. I remember emailing a consultant in our industry who actually had hired to speak for me when I was in corporate, and I asked her if she would mentor me. Total rookie move now, I know, but I can only assume that either she saw me as a threat, hopefully that's what it was, or she was just flat out too busy or uninterested, so she opted out. And I was really disappointed and I think let down because she was somebody who I really admired. And I just never forgot that feeling. That's why this past year, I was contacted by a brilliant, super ambitious, hungry skincare rep in our space. And she asked me to work with her, and I agreed because I remembered how isolating that felt to have no one to ask questions to who had been there. And it doesn't really matter what stage you're in, the journey is lonely. And it was definitely lonely then. And it was a huge aha moment for me when I had a conversation with one of our certified practice managers in our practice manager mentorship program. And she expressed how lonely it can be as an emerging leader to be the enforcer instead of the cool work friend of the group. She was now the one who had to roll out, implement like all the rules, ensure accountabilities for the team. No fun, obviously. You don't have to own a business to be a leader and want to grow into your greatest calling as a leader. And along my own path, I didn't always feel comfortable going to my boss or asking my mom, obviously, what would she know? I resourced myself with friends and colleagues I trusted. But what was missing for me was someone who could challenge me to ask myself the right questions, inspire me to focus on the right activities, and to be a role model for what's possible for a scrappy rising leader like I always was. I read all the books by the leadership greats, John Maxwell, Simon Sinek, Peter Drucker, Tony Robbins, you name it. I've studied their work ad nauseum. But none of these gurus were actual humans to me. I could mirror, model, watch how they think, learn their habits, but I couldn't make them all seem realistic for me. And I certainly didn't think I could afford a high caliber coach when I was starting my business. But knowing now what I know, I would have invested everything I could into learning how to build the mindset of what it would take to access my highest potential. Think about it. Think just 5 years back. It was 2020. Who were you? What were your thoughts? What were your ambitions? What were you creating in the world? It's crazy to think. For me, I was launching our academy to 4 clients. I was showing up doing weekly Facebook Lives to sometimes zero audience. I couldn't have imagined that by 2025, I would have personally helped over 500 high-growth female entrepreneurs cross their next $1 million milestone, launched a breakthrough live experience, and built a trend-setting academy that many coaches and consultants in our space work to emulate. How about you? My guess is you're in a place today that you only dreamed of emerging into. Now imagine having the ability to go back and hold that girl's hand and reassure her that she's on the right path, infuse the confidence in her to pursue, and illuminate the path for her to dive head first, to take her raw potential and help her focus on the daily, weekly, monthly habits that build resilience, tenacity, and self-assurance. That is the power of coaching and mentorship. If only our future self could coach us, right? One piece of advice I often share with my clients is to get in the room with the people who have been where you want to go. In other words, surround yourself with the people who have already accomplished some version of achievement that you're striving for, because you learn by osmosis. You learn that they think differently, they think bigger, they focus differently, they resource themselves differently. And it's this core philosophy that drives the innovation inside of the programming that we develop at KLC. Because the true magic of what we curate is the opportunity to get instantly plugged into a network of badass female trailblazers in aesthetics and wellness who make uncomfortable, high-pressure growth common. If there's one consistent trait I've learned about high-growth women throughout my life, it's that success is an evolution. They do the hard work that most aren't willing to do. They know that big transformations aren't the result of an event. They are the blossoming of small, consistent inputs. You might be someone who is a regular listener here. You look forward to your weekly dose of education, inspiration, and thought partnership every Monday morning. And perhaps you take what you learn here and try to find ways to implement certain lessons or ideas into your own business or life. You're ready to lock in and do the work. That's why I could not be more excited to introduce to you our newest program at KLC that is turning this Fierce Factor podcast, my personal passion project, into a powerful growth incubator for female leaders spanning this industry and beyond. This is the portal for the most ambitious females at all stages of career development to tap into their next level of leadership. Introducing the Fierce Factor Society, an exclusive members-only community designed to empower followers of the Fierce Factor podcast to elevate their leadership skills and unleash their greatest potential. As we celebrate episode 250 of our podcast and beyond, we embark on a new journey that seeks to cultivate a space for driven individuals like you, those who possess an insatiable hunger to grow and who understand that leadership is not a destination, but it's a pathway paved with lessons, collaboration, and resilience. Over this past year, my team has been researching and interviewing our most ambitious listeners to carefully architect a transformative experience for you, where you will gain access to invaluable resources, mentorship, and a network of high-impact women who share your passion for leadership. Together, we'll explore practical strategies, engage in honest discussions, and lift each other up as we navigate the challenging calling of leadership. This is a launching pad for you to gain access to leadership know-how, practical growth strategy, and to build unshakable confidence to show up as your highest self as you elevate to your next level. Whether you're a practice owner, practice manager, corporate executive, your story matters. And here you'll discover the courage to embrace your unique journey while learning from my experience and other like-minded individuals who are walking similar paths. So here's how it'll work. As a Fierce Factor Society member, you'll gain access to weekly resources, audits, guideposts, templates, and freebies to complement each podcast episode. I'll be sharing a monthly book recommendation and hosting a monthly live goal-setting masterclass exclusively for Fierce Factor Society members. The vision of this program is to pave the pathway for all aspiring and developing leaders to access premium support and mentorship, to make personal development a part of daily practice, and to build the confidence to blossom into the most vibrant version of themselves. So if you've been waiting for the opportunity to work together to lock into the KLC ecosystem, or maybe you've been waiting for that sign that it's your turn to tap into your own limitless potential and you haven't been sure which direction to make your next move, this is your invitation. You don't have to work with a less experienced or a less talented business coach because you can't afford the best. Let's answer the call to elevate together and reimagine what achieving your greatest potential means in our lives together and our businesses. Join us in this exciting new chapter and be part of the movement that champions growth, authenticity, and genuine impact. Having the guts to stand out isn't easy. The world definitely doesn't need more people following the same path as the person before them. I see you. What the world needs today are more powerful women leaders who are clear in what they stand for and what they're bringing to the world. And my goal is to help you find the guts and the discipline to create that. The road doesn't have to be lonely anymore, goddess. Head to klcconsultants.com/Fierce Factor Society to learn more and to become one of our founding private members. I can't wait to start this journey with you. I'll see you on the other side. Listen, leader, if you're vibing with me here, hang tight because I have a brand new resource for you. You are a successful, confident, powerful woman who just isn't into being average. No, you have a calling, and part of that calling is requiring you to level up. And I know that if you're working across the next $1 million milestone in your business, you need to be in the right circles. And perhaps that's why you found us. I'd love to invite you to join The Blueprint, a weekly resource for inspired, provocative thinkers who are taking this conversation to the next level. Get access to free business tools, podcast supplements, guideposts, and direct communication with me and my expert team. And of course, a masterfully curated circle of women making big moves and disrupting the status quo in aesthetics and wellness. You can link directly through the show notes or head to klcconsultants.com/blueprint. It's time to elevate. See you there, goddess.